right, welcome to another live stream talking about microcap stocks with Common Sense Investing. My name is Cameron. Today is what, July 28, 2025, and we're still in a bull market for microcap stocks. It's absolutely fantastic. I love it. There's so much money to be made in these markets. There's so many companies to talk about, and we have earnings coming up, which is really exciting me. I'm going to talk about why earnings are exciting me in today's live stream video. I'm going to talk about a few companies that are, reporting earnings maybe this week or next week in the microcap stock space. Sometimes it's frustrating tracking all this. Microcaps, part of the variability, part of the fun of microcap stocks is their variability. And sometimes part of the variability is when the heck are they going to report earnings? It's sometimes hard to follow. So I'm going to show you a few of the companies that are reporting earnings very soon, and then anything else you want to talk about. I have a little presentation here for you as normal, but I'll be sitting here watching the comments. Feel free to heckle me, put in there stocks that you want me to talk about, and anything else you want to chat about today. I will have some time at the end of this presentation. I do like this thumbnail. I make so many different thumbnails. It's actually one of the hardest parts about YouTube, being on YouTube, that I don't think people recognize, is that sometimes, I don't make YouTube videos for my own health, right? It's work, it's stress. I enjoy it. It's a hobby. That's why I do it. But it's amazing sometimes how I'll spend, 6 hours on a YouTube video, and 2 of those hours can be just developing a thumbnail. It's definitely its own kind of its own skill. But I do love here the investor watering the money tree, and that's basically what I feel like right now with Q2 earnings. Is I get to watch all these companies, some stocks that have gone up, some stocks that have not gone up, some stocks that have gone down recently thanks to some of the turmoil in the economic markets with tariffs and everything else, right? We get to watch the earnings come in for a bunch of these stocks, gather that information, and help us make decisions in the future. So that's really why I like that thumbnail. And then don't forget, as I go through my presentation and as I answer questions later, I always say this: I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not saying this because I have to as some disclaimer. I really don't know anything about you. I don't know your experience levels. I don't know your risk tolerance. I don't know how much capital you're working with. So none of this is financial advice, and you won't ever catch me giving buy, sell, or hold recommendations on this channel. That's not what I do. I try to communicate about these stocks. Sometimes I'll give my opinion. I just want to create entertainment and discussion and not give financial advice. High Tide had some news today. I didn't see that at all. I'm checking my emails all the time, and I'm on High Tide's email list. So you'll have to let me know what news they had, because I did not see it today, which is kind of strange. Yeah, why am I excited about earnings right now? Normally, the excitement in earnings doesn't start until October, November in the year, and the reason that excitement doesn't start until that time is, by that time we're kind of thinking about audited full year earnings, right? We're gathering, we have a lot more information to gather by Q3. By the end of Q3, you can start to see what Q4 is going to look like, and then you could predict what their audited full year earnings are going to look like. So everybody pulls out their spreadsheet models and puts those numbers in there, and they're more accurate numbers after Q3 than around this Q1, right? So normally that's the exciting time of year. We get tax loss season where we get some stocks going down, and maybe we get a little talk about guidance. So normally, I'm kind of taking the summer off and looking forward to October and November. This year, though, is a little bit different thanks to, Donald Trump. It's a unique situation this year, I find, where I'm more excited than normal. Since Trump was inaugurated, nothing has been very stable, right? Tariff fears, trade wars, shipping slowdowns, contract delays, they've all been frequently discussed by microcap companies. And right up until the most recent earnings in April and May, just in one example here, which is BioRem, I don't know that I've seen another stock that's this funny, because it does look like their 52-week high was basically election day. Everybody got super excited about BioRem until Trump won the election. And then for BioRem Inc., It's, well, they went down, they had a little bit of a rally, and then, Trump actually took office and said tariffs, and that was it for BioRem. It was absolutely crashing down. So I always joke around with this because, I think a lot of subscribers probably leave me when they see a slide like this with Donald Trump dancing. And I'm sure if there's any microcap CEOs watching this video, they're probably extremely pissed off at me right now. But the fact of the matter is, I like this because volatility creates opportunity. And whether you like Donald Trump or hate his guts, I don't really care. When I'm looking at it from an investor's perspective, I mean, if you like BioRem and long term you think that share price should be up here somewhere, and you maybe missed some of this, very quick rally that they had in share price, I mean, you have to look sometimes where Donald Trump has created some opportunities for us investors to kind of find our favorite stocks. And yeah, we got a few more comments here. Thanks, Cameron, for your efforts. I like your information shared. We got some people asking about some stocks already. Good. Okay, so my question for earnings coming up, because they've already started. LoveV reported earnings today. Hypercharge reports tomorrow. Source Energy reports on Wednesday. Earnings are already starting to come in. My question really is right now, are we getting back to normal? That's kind of why I'm more excited about Q2 earnings than I normally am, because in Q4 and in Q4 of last year and Q1 of this year, basically the past 6 months, what I've been hearing from a lot of these microcap stocks is kind of excuses. Even companies that don't give guidance, when their earnings were down, when their earnings were struggling, they had to give reasons for why earnings were down. And what we heard was a lot of, I shouldn't say excuses, but for lack of a better word, reasons why earnings were down. And what we heard was things like delayed contracts, shipping delays, a lot of Trump tariff issue concerns causing, if you remember back in, March, April of 2025, the fear and greed index was down around 4 fear. Like it was absolutely, everybody was terrified that Donald Trump was going to destroy the global economic market. Everybody was afraid. And so all these contracts were getting delayed, ships weren't shipping anything, and there was a distinct lack of growth. But what we were hearing from a lot of these companies is, with information we assume that they had that we didn't have, we kept hearing this, we expect to return to solid growth in the back half of 2025. Over and over, we expect to return to solid growth in the back half of 2025. Now, I know we're coming up to just Q2 earnings, and that's not necessarily the back half yet, but we get to see what Q2 earnings are like, and then we get to hear some of the chatter, what companies are saying about their company moving forward, their prospects moving forward. Are we still going to see a return to normal? Because right now, if some of these microcap stocks, if their earnings closed at the end of June, they are now 1 month into their third quarter. They are now 1 month into Q3. So we should be able to get some commentary from some of the management teams of these companies, whether or not we are returning to normal in the back half of 2025, like so many of these companies promised, right? In the meantime, we're still on a bull run because we're getting good news. And again, it's funny because I see these trade deals come in. Some people absolutely love it. And my gosh, the market is just rallying all the time and we keep hitting new highs for microcap stocks. Other people hate it. Again, I don't really care, except if these trade deals are still good for investor sentiment and they continue with this bull run that we're in, then that's just making me happy regardless of the exact details. But I mean, this past week they were talking about this, deal with Japan, and then recently, July 27th, it was announced a EU trade deal, and Canada, unfortunately, a little bit more difficult. So one of the things that I keep talking about is that don't be afraid of these bull markets. It's interesting because I see different types of investors in different stages of their investing journey and their learning. And it's amazing to me how, as an investor, this is what I wait for. This is what I dream of, is these bull markets, these bull runs where these stocks that I've bought for years that weren't going up in price or were going up a little bit, all of a sudden run much higher. This is what we want. And it's amazing to me how many, especially newer investors, maybe arguably, in my opinion, get out a little bit too early, right? All of a sudden, everybody wants cash, 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 cash. I will tell you right now, as of today, the worst performing stock or the worst performing asset in my portfolio for the past 3 months has been cash. Every other stock just about went up today. Right? Like it's been massive overperformance in some of these stocks. We're in a bull market. We're seeing investor sentiment look really good. We're getting trade deals. Now this is what I'm looking for. This is why I'm excited about Q2 earnings coming up. Is this going to continue? This is when I can start to reevaluate. Are we still going to have this bull market going forward? Or are Q2 earnings still a little bit weak? Is the verbiage now for Q3 still strong, or do we start to see more excuses, for lack of a better word, where, you know what, maybe we're not going to return to such high growth as we expected in Q3 and Q4. Maybe this year is going to continue to be a little bit challenging for us. So yes, we're in a bull market. Yes, I want to capitalize on that as much as possible. But basically what I'm trying to do with earnings coming up right now for so many companies is essentially evaluate. That's what I do all the time, right? I know you've seen this slide for me on, half of my live streams. I probably pull it up. But, I build a thesis around the company. I look at all the inputs coming in. This Q2 earnings season coming up is just another input for me. And then I evaluate the thesis to try to decide whether or not to buy, sell, or trim. So even though I'm talking about the macroeconomic markets, I'm not specifically looking at the macroeconomics. I'm trying to evaluate each company individually. And right now, with earnings coming up, we have another big input coming up. So that's kind of what I'm looking at right now. Some stocks. I think to prepare ourselves in a bull market right now with earnings coming up, I would like to put some stocks into some categories because I am seeing some distinct differences between different groupings of stocks, right? One of those right now I would suggest are some of these overvalued runners. We're seeing some stocks that are simply up, 200% on the year. Fundamentals are good, with Kraken Robotics, 86 million trailing 12-month revenue, but, it's over $1 billion market cap right now. So they are not reporting earnings this week, but, this is kind of my question. We do have some of these overvalued runners. What we will be looking for with earnings coming up for some of these companies is this share price justified, right? What is the company going to say about the future? Because when you're trading, I think, what is this now at around 12 times sales? They have about 8 cents diluted earnings per share, and they're sitting here at $3.49. We're looking at some of these stocks to see if they can justify their very, very high share price. And these are huge winners over the past year, right? So congratulations. We also have some shorter term CanSlim strength type of stocks, right? So, Name Silo is up 360%, but I'd argue it's not necessarily like Kraken Robotics. It's probably closer to fair value because it was ridiculously cheap down here, right? So slow and steady growth throughout the year, up significantly, definitely CanSlimming. And the reason I say CanSlim strength is this company, it doesn't really matter where you bought Name Silo along the way in the past 6 months or so, it's made shareholders money, right? So when I look at that, that's a different grouping of stocks for me. It's not as volatile. It's just been steady up. Then we got like 2026 or longer plays, right? That's a stock like Glow Life Tech for me. This is like a $10 million market cap stock. It's only got about $1.2 million of revenue, so it's a little bit arguably overvalued, at least on a price to sales basis. But I mean, really, we're looking at the opportunity here for a company like Glow Life Tech, not this year, not right now in the bull market, but we're starting to say, okay, what's next? What's the next batch of winning stocks that are going to be on Common Sense Investing that we're talking about next year in 2026 or the year after in 2027. And so we have these companies that we're really starting to look at now, and they've been dead for a while, right? This has been arguably dead money sitting around 5 cents Canadian per share price. And you're really hoping to find these types of stocks using Tornado Infrastructure Equipment as a comparable, where this was also dead money for basically 3 years for Tornado Global or Tornado Infrastructure Equipment. And then you get these massive benches up here where it's not like Name Silo where you could just buy anywhere along the chart and you will make money. Basically, you need to either catch these benches or you miss out because the share price goes up so quickly, it's hard to catch them going up. So that's kind of a grouping of stocks where we're really looking for the next big thing in 2026 and 2027. And then you've got these beat up and cheap stocks, mostly thanks to old Donald Trump there, right? You have these companies, Covalon Technology, another one, right? 52-week high in November, surprise, surprise, right? BioRem, 52-week high in November. All discussion of tariffs and trade issues and, economy challenges, and both of these companies go crashing down. Now, neither of them report quickly. Covalon's probably in the third week of August and BioRem sometime in the last week of August. So once we get closer to earnings, I will be talking more about these two companies. But really, again, for another grouping of stocks, beat up and cheap, you're looking at kind of how low they can go before we get to see a rebound. And I'll be looking at this next earnings to see is, the back half of 2025 is supposed to be better, but we're just going into Q2. Is their Q2 going to be weak? And what will the company say about their future? So a bit of overvalued runners. We got some shorter term can slim strength companies like Name Silo. We got kind of some 2026 or longer plays, and then we've got the beat up and cheap stocks. Those are basically the buckets that I've been putting some of these stocks in recently. This is where we're at. Is if I've missed any reporting this week, this is my list. Gatekeeper Systems, Hypercharge Networks, California Nano, Avant Core, Source Energy Services. Maybe this week, could be next week, Omnilight Industries and NTG Clarity Networks. Stocks and Stones reminded me that LoveV reported this morning, very, very good earnings. And then again, RenoWorks. Somebody, I forgot RenoWorks, and somebody reminded me, Fuaz reminded me that RenoWorks is reporting this week. So if I've missed any, let me know. But these are the companies that I think are reporting this week or very close to this week. And I can't wait to look at some of these earnings come in and get some information and figure out which kind of companies are the best ones moving forward. Don't forget to continue researching some of these companies. Check out commonsenseinvesting.ca, where it will introduce you to either my Patreon Discord and or my Substack. And I am trying to get both of these offerings very similar, where it doesn't really matter whether you join the Patreon or whether you join the Substack. Basically, it should have relatively the same content. The only difference is that the Substack is more for email conversations and other stuff that I offer, whereas the Patreon Discord is more for basically daily constant chat about some of these best stocks that I'm talking about in these live streams. And I basically just give my opinion whenever it comes to the top of my head, right? So we do have some... Thank you. Yeah, smash the like button. I'm pretty bad at self-promoting myself, unfortunately. I hate even spending 30 seconds self-promoting myself, so I appreciate it. Thank you, Chad. Gatekeeper Systems, right? Should be reporting earnings this week, I would suggest. I was going through CDAR, and, we look here at July 19th, they've previously reported, and July 30th. It's currently July 28th. So I would expect Gatekeeper Systems will be reporting this quarter pretty soon. I have to give, Doug Diamond credit, right? This stock, and Doug, if you're watching, congratulations. I know sometimes, CEOs of companies watch my channel just to see what investors are thinking about them and their stock and getting some opinions. I mean, absolutely. Since I interviewed Doug, one thing I always loved is that every time I interviewed Mr. Doug Diamond, right at the end, I'd be like, Doug, what did we miss anything? Is there any last message for investors? And basically, he said the same two things every time. He would be like, Cameron, just remember that, Gatekeeper Systems is a good company doing good things. We're keeping children safe on school buses. And it's just my opinion, Cameron, but this is the type of stock that you want to buy and hold forever. That was the two things that Doug always said on my interviews. And I've been covering, Gatekeeper Systems since about 20 cents. They're up about 575% since my first interviews. Now, I think there's going to be two types of investors right now in Gatekeeper. If you look at them from a fundamental basis, they've struggled the last couple quarters. So this is another company that's going to have to talk about their future and get people excited about their future. And I think Doug is the person to do that, as well as there's a lot of institutional investors that these are the types of people that are looking into the future. They're not like a lot of us retail investors that are looking 2 or 3 weeks into the future or 2 or 3 months into the future. They're looking years into the future. But I mean, it's a very interesting earnings coming up for Gatekeeper Systems because their share price has gone absolutely parabolic. And now their earnings and discussions over earnings are going to have to justify that share price. Then we got something like California Nanotechnologies. I went on a rant recently talking about moats. This share price going up so quickly for California Nanotechnologies to $1.95 Canadian was a lot of moat hype, in my opinion. It's got a moat. It's got a moat. It's just going to go forever on this moat. And then kind of real world problems kick in for this company. And it's gone from, $1.95 down to 53 cents. It's down 72.8% in the past, whatever it is, 6 months or 7 months or something like that. So that's unfortunate for California Nanotechnologies. I've been asked for predictions on this one. I don't have any predictions. I mean, how do you predict that, right? 2022, 2023, California Nano was very, very stable and consistent and growing. But sometimes this is the price of high growth, right? You get these fluctuations, you get spending for growth, and then you get that high growth. Then you get more spending for growth, and then you get that high growth. So a lot of moving pieces for California Nanotechnologies. I can't wait to see what this recent earnings looks like for them. So, I mean, Gatekeeper Systems sitting right now at about 4 times sales. California Nanotechnologies at about 2.5 times sales. This is the hot stock right now, and this is kind of the sleeping stock. People have fallen asleep on that one. And speaking about falling asleep, I mean, we have Avantcore with earnings coming up. This is an interesting company to me because essentially you get some small cap discoveries buying right here. And then small cap discoveries very nicely, which is, go give them a follow. They publicly release all these CEO interviews, which is absolutely fantastic. Small cap discoveries releases this CEO interview right here, and share price continues to go absolutely parabolic. But again, economy concerns, trade concerns, tariff concerns, people don't get what they want out of Avantcore over the next 6 months, and share price has gone from a 52-week high of $1.52 Canadian, and now it's sitting pretty stable at around 85 cents Canadian. I made a video on them recently here. They have full year earnings coming in, so that should be very interesting because those will be audited. One of the things I'll be looking for, I think their new CEO took over here in about mid-2022. And basically, they've been cleaning up the company. And when you're cleaning up a company, that means that your Q4 is basically a dumping ground for all your financial problems. And we got Q4 coming up. So the question for me for earnings is Q4 going to be another dumping ground of problems, or can they finally get a little bit more consistency towards profitability? And if they can, I might like this company a little bit more. Finally, an interesting one for me is Hypercharge Networks. Hypercharge, I say this sometimes, good company does not always equal a good stock, and a good stock does not always equal a good company, right? I know I'm not going to say their names because I don't want to disparage them, but I know some really good companies where I really admire and like their CEO, and they're doing good things and they're helping people, and the stock has just never done anything, right? It's never gone up. It's never really made shareholders money. I'm still on the fence with Hypercharge. I've spoken to them. I've researched them quite a bit. I still think they need to prove that they're a good company. But I mean, when I made my video over here, I thought that there was a pretty good chance that they were a good stock. I made my video on Hypercharge when they were around 6 to 7 cents Canadian. They are now sitting at around 13 to 14 cents Canadian. And you could see, I was thinking along those lines of, is this a good company? I don't know yet, because even my video title was starting to look like a real business, meaning in the past they weren't. Now, they have earnings coming out basically tomorrow. I'm recording this on the 28th, and they should be recording earnings on the 29th. So we should see those come out tomorrow. And I mean, this is an EV charging company in Canada, and they operate in the US as well. Go give them a follow on LinkedIn. That's when they're talking about, like, these are all their large level 3 chargers that are getting shipped out. So that's pretty bullish for the company, as well as, they have other government funding and stuff coming in for the company. So a lot of tailwinds for Hypercharge networks, because, even though I'm not a huge fan of EVs, the government of Canada sure is. I mean, we've got in 2026, I think 20% of vehicles have to be EVs, and in 2020 or 2030, it's got to be something like 60% of our vehicles have to be EVs. So I'll be looking forward to earnings for Hypercharge networks tomorrow. And that's just kind of to remind people, I don't make these YouTube videos just for my own health, right? Sometimes they're stressful putting everything on a public platform. So when I make a video, take a look at the company, take a real deep dive, and have some conversations about it. And one of those companies is, I mean, congratulations to people who have suffered me talking about Mind technology, just about every live stream. And I'm going to continue talking about them every live stream. This is Mind, M-I-N-D, trading on the NASDAQ, Mind Technology. How many live streams have I been talking about the different scenarios and different prices? And I was always talking about Mind Technologies going to $10, going to $10, going to $10. I said over and over, which is always, dangerous and difficult to do on a public, platform, to say, I think this is a $10 stock, saying how patience is a form of action. Recently, especially, I've been reaching out to people about Mind Technologies, basically saying, like, look, this stock was down here at $5 recently. This stock was down here at $6, $7 recently. I think it's a $10 stock. Am I crazy? I felt crazy, right? I did. I was like, what am I missing? What am I not seeing? Please, can I get some other opinions on this company? Finally, recently, it's starting to get some movement again. So back up above $10 now. $10 was my very conservative estimates. I actually think if it gets acquired by a larger company, it's probably getting acquired for closer to $15 or $16. So I'm not saying the end is $10 for Mind Technologies, but man, at least that doesn't make me feel crazy anymore. And I can, go through with this live stream today with some confidence and with a, smile on my face. Because over and over and over, I gave so many different, reasonable valuations, conservative valuations, saying mine's a $10 stock, in some cases a $12 stock. And, it's finally gone from when I first introduced them at basically a little over $3 to $10. So absolutely congratulations to people who suffered me listening about Mind, talk about Mind all the time, finally back up over $10. And recently, again, I don't make these videos for my own health. I know D-Box Technologies is up 335% on the year, but I mean, good trends. This is one of my most recent videos. This stock is really growing on me. And I mean, you look at the valuation. This is one of the few stocks where, even though it's up right now, I'm really looking at D-Box for the longer term. And that's scary for me because, again, I'm not much of a long-term investor. Again, I say let companies earn your money, let them, prove to you every quarter that they deserve the right to earn your money and evaluate. And, so it's a bit weird for me to take a look at a company and say, hey, I am kind of curious about D-Box Technologies, what they're going to look like in 2026, 2027, 2028. So, I mean, for me, it's not just about the price target, it's about the time target. It's about how long you're willing, how much patience you're going to have with a company, with a stock before you expect to see returns in your portfolio. Many times, I think the time target is just as important or more important than the price target, but I find so many investors talking about price and not enough investors talking about time. How long are you going to give a company? How much rope are you going to give them before, you give them the opportunity to either disappoint you a little bit or impress you a whole lot, right? That's really the question. And that's pretty much the end of my presentation. So I appreciate everybody watching. If that's the only reason you were here, it's over. You're done. You made it. And otherwise, I'm going to get to questions, answers, comments. We'll sit here and we'll talk about some stocks. So now's your chance to get a few questions in, and we'll see what everybody wants to talk about today while I take a sip of coffee on a Monday evening. All right. That just keeps my voice going. Where are we here? Questions and answers. There, that's a little bit better. Okay, I got to go check out what High Tide said today. So High Tide is a company that is a cannabis retailer, and I actually was pretty bullish on High Tide at one point. I really liked their business of opening up retail locations in cannabis in Canada. They had really nice, clean, bright stores. I actually went to a few, checked them out. I thought they were really nice stores. And I thought all this company needs to do is keep repeating that business model of opening stores in Canada, getting them profitable, and then opening more stores. Instead, they got distracted. They tried to go with this big acquisition in Germany that fell through. When that acquisition in Germany fell through, their share price crashed. And then there was a hostile takeover attempt down here. And then the company put up some firewalls to block the hostile takeover. And since then, share price has come back off the bottoms and leveled out at just above $3, which is pretty darn disappointing. And I'm looking for news on High Tide, and I don't see really any news. Oh, yeah, they had 2 million Cabana Club members and 100,000 elite members nationwide. That's great. I wish they would focus on this more. If they focused on this more, I might get excited about High Tide again. This is why I was interested in the company in the first place. This is why I made my YouTube video on them. Was it 3, 4, 5 months ago now? Just do this. But they're not going to do this. They are focusing again on Europe as far as I understand. So it's good they have some news talking about their Cabana Club members and elite members. That's basically recurring revenues. They have people signing up, paying to be a Cabana Club member for High Tide, and it's brand loyalty where they get emails about discounts where they could buy cannabis for cheaper because they're a member. I mean, it's basically the Costco of cannabis. That's what I called High Tide. I wish they would focus on that more because I just don't know, right? I don't know about this European expansion. And because I don't know about it, it's basically just created volatility that I don't like. Somebody's asking about Cassava Sciences. I've never heard of them. I'll tell you one thing, though, that Common Sense Investing as a channel and a platform typically doesn't like, though, is that kind of chart. Right? That is absolutely ugly. So if you ask my opinion, I've never heard of this company before, but that is absolutely terrifying, right? I don't know what happened, but it's not looking very good. So I'm not much of somebody that's looking for, I'm looking for inflection point stocks, but there's a difference between an inflection point stock and a stock that's basically bouncing off bankruptcy. Clinical stage biotech company develops drugs for neurodegenerative diseases. Yeah, I don't really do a lot of biotech stocks unless the fundamentals are really good, unless the finances are crazy good, and it's not for this company. This is a pre-revenue company, so I don't know them, and that's why I have zero interest. I tell people all the time, I cover one pre-revenue stock per year. It's always a high risk bet. It normally loses. They normally lose. I hate pre-revenue stocks. And I try to get them if they're pre-revenue, so they're not going to be pre-revenue for very long. Like, I'm not a sucker. I'm not going to sit here for 4 or 5 years. When you tell me that there's going to be revenue, no, we're delaying the revenue. Oh, we're going to commercialize next year. No, it's going to be 2 years. I don't like that, right? So I'm not a huge fan of pre-revenue stocks, and that's just the way it is. Yeah, there we go. 104,000 elite members nationwide, 2 million Cabana Club members for High Tide. What's happening to NCI? Some news on it. No, it's got earnings coming up, so there's only so much news they can release. I think there's going to be an interview released eventually with Small Cap Discoveries. Might release an interview. I think they were meeting with NTG Clarity Networks. They recently did a financing at $2.20 because they did a financing at $2.20. I think that's very fair that, share price has kind of gone just below that financing level. We see that happen quite a bit in stocks. And, we're waiting for the next catalyst as share price just kind of sits here and consolidates just below the financing level. Because what the financing does is it sucks up a lot of the buying pressure, right? Like, if you wanted to buy NTG Clarity Networks, you could buy shares, and institutions did buy shares in the financing. They don't need to buy open market. So because they don't need to buy open market, share price consolidates to a lower level until there's another catalyst. And I just showed on my presentation, I think NTG Clarity Networks might have earnings this week. I don't know, but I don't think they do. I think they have earnings in the next week or two. And that could be a catalyst for this company, right? I think the bigger catalyst for NTG Clarity Networks, though, is always Q4 guidance, right? That really gets people excited about this company. Did I listen to the webinar on Nurse? Not yet. I do intend to, though. Interesting company. I love Nurse. I love Hydrate. So, and I don't mean that I love this company. What I love about Nurse right now is it's fun. I think sometimes we take investing so seriously. Nurse is up, in 1 year, it's up 720%. It's, I think, 50-some% owned by VST, which is their venture capital founder. So large shareholder that could end up selling shares eventually. People either love this company or they hate it. I know Paul Andriola on X recently asked the question, what stock has you excited this year? What stock has you the most excited coming up on earnings? And like a quarter of the people responded Hydrate Technologies. A very popular, very followed stock right now. And you don't have to look very far here to know why. It's up significantly. But it's fun right now because when it goes up to these highs, man, you get this battle between the bulls and the bears. Between, the bears pointing out the significant risk. This company does have significant risk. I mean, they're basically selling drugs, and that always has risk of like lawsuits and change in regulations and all kinds of other barriers, right, to growth. But if you talk to the bulls, man, they present a pretty convincing case of triple-digit growth for the foreseeable future for Hydrate. So, I mean, sometimes you just need to step back, and I look at Hydrate, and this is such a fun stock. Whether you own a little bit of it, I'd imagine if you owned a lot of it, it's probably not fun for you. You probably have anxiety every day, right? But for people that own just a small amount or just watching from the sidelines, go watch Hydrate. Go watch the battle between the bulls and the bears. learn something. I always learn something, right? I'll see what some people on social media are saying that turn out to be accurate. Some things, sometimes people say things on social media that turn out to be inaccurate. And I make notes of that, right? Who's right about this stock and who's not right about this stock. It's fun. I really like Hydrate, right? Oco, copper mine in Mexico. Isn't that Orco? That's a shitco. I won't follow it. I won't cover it. Orco is garbage in my mind. No, thank you. Name Silo had a stumble lately, so I added more. I just love the chart. How high could this go in the next 5 years if all goes well? Look, I'll take you back to my presentation, if I could find it, talking about, time targets versus price targets, right? I don't know. Because one of the things with these microcap stocks, when we're talking about price, is execution. Like, how much execution is there going to be for Name Silo over the next 5 years? That's the big question. How long are you going to give Name Silo time-wise to impress you versus disappoint you? I am going to be making a video on Name Silo because I don't think enough investors really understand the story of what Name Silo is, because Name Silo is basically a holding company for Paul Andreola, who's arguably the most successful microcap investor in Canada. So investing in this company is basically investing in Paul Andreola, creating startup businesses, taking these startup businesses to market, almost like a venture capital, right? So interesting company. I do like it. Glow Life Tech is, I always like Glow. So I just talked about time target, right? And I just had them on my presentation where I was talking about 2026 play and longer. And that's basically, in my mind, what Glow is. I mean, that's their chart right there. A bit arguably overvalued, right? They're sitting at around 8.5 million market cap. I think recently they had, 1.2 million of revenue. And because of that, their price is sitting at 5 cents. But I mean, they're getting 40% growth quarter to quarter, not year over year, quarter to quarter, 40% growth. And the reason that share price is at 5 cents, or at least the rumor right now, is there has been a large seller that's been exiting from Glow Life Tech. So, I mean, this a couple times has popped up to 8 or 9 cents. They've got warrants. Once those warrants expire, I think the warrants are sitting at 7 cents, 8 cents? Somebody can remind me. They got warrants that need to expire. They got a large shareholder that needs to stop selling. But this is a really, like, when I talk about stocks that, Kraken Robotics, Gatekeeper Systems, everybody wants me to keep talking about those stocks. And I will occasionally, because you can't ignore the fact that, some of these stocks have been huge winners for this channel, up 575%. When we go to Kraken Robotics, it's up, 200% just in this year. So they are huge winners, but typically what I'm always doing is looking for the next Kraken Robotics, looking for the next Gatekeeper Systems. So I'm not sure that I'm there yet on Glow Life Tech, but I'm willing to give them some time, right? That's basically what I'm willing to do. How do you feel about the stocks you reviewed at the NanoCap Investor Summit, McCoy Global, Creative Reality, Zoomed, etc.? Well, I mean, my gosh, I got to go back. How much am I up? I did like a top 10 for, I think you're talking about Planet Microcap. That was basically my entire, if I go here and self-promote myself again, if you go to my Substack, that was basically the start of my Substack. Is I ranked all the Planet Microcap Vegas companies. So that's one of the benefits of joining, Common Sense Investing, is there was, I believe it was 110 companies that were attending Planet Microcap. It's a lot of companies. And I took the time and I went through every one and I wrote out something like 6 articles for free with a short introduction to every one of these companies. And then to my paid subscribers, I ranked the top 15 or so. And my gosh, I mean, have you seen Acorn Energy? That was one of the top stocks on that I said on Planet Microcap. And look at it right now, just crushing it, up 25% today. When I introduced them on my Substack, that was in February, they were sitting at around $17. And then after I made that Substack article, they went as low. Somebody bought this thing for $13.78. And now it's sitting at, cruising over $22, just about to hit $23. So this was a company that I absolutely loved. You can go check my Substack. I've now made all those articles free for anybody to read. They shouldn't be paid anymore. And I'm going to be doing the same thing. I'm going to be doing the same thing for Planet Microcap coming up in Toronto this October, and for Small Cap Discoveries coming up in Vancouver this September. I will actually be attending in person the Small Cap Discoveries Conference coming up in September of 2025. I will be there. In fact, I may be promoting it a bit where I'm going to do common sense investing at Small Cap Discoveries. I can't wait. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to all the companies coming there. And then I do intend to actually go to Planet Microcap Vegas next year in 2026. And I'm looking forward to that one, right? So let's see here. Canada has the friendliest regulations for cannabis industry probably in the world. Just lock Canada down. Yeah, I mean, this is the advantage, and this is why, cannabis stocks have been doing very, very well lately. If you look at Canara, the Love V, really nice company, really huge win for Matthew Martin at Rivemont. I don't cover Love V, but Matthew Martin at Rivemont has extensively, and a huge win for him. Go look up Stocks and Stones, Matthew Martin, Rivemont Fund. He's basically, we call him kind of the cannabis expert right now. He's just been so successful finding these cannabis stocks. I'm picking around the cannabis space. Glow Life Tech is a little bit cannabis. Obviously, Simply Solventless, High Tide. I've got a few cannabis stocks on my channel, but I do not pretend to be an expert. The expert right now is probably Matthew Martin from Rivemont, and then secondary to that, probably Small Cap Discoveries with Paul and Trevor. So yeah, I'd love a video on Name Silo. I find it hard to find good info on the company. Yeah, this you need to read into the filings for Name Silo. It's not an easy stock to research, and that's why they've earned a video at this point. When we first started researching Name Silo on my channel, I known for a long time it was like a Paul Andreola holding company. And because of that, it's my ego got in the way, right? Because I've never invested in venture capital. I've never invested in somebody else's holding company stock, because it's almost like, well, it's you against me. Like, that's basically me giving my money to you, thinking that you can outperform me. And so my ego has always gotten in the way of that, right? But when you're talking about Paul Andreola, if you look at another successful one, it's PNP. It's is it Pine Tree Capital, and that's the son of the Constellation Software guy, right? So, when you're looking at giving your money to those types of people, it's probably a smart idea. And we started researching Name Silo back at like 30 cents, and now it's sitting at like $1.35. And that was like months ago. We're not talking years ago it was 30 cents. We're talking like 6-7 months ago Name Silo was at 30 cents when we started researching it. Speaking of fun companies, have you looked into Zoom recently? I love the CEO's voice. What am I going to look at? This is a company Zoom Technologies, went up to like $1.45. I think it's like $1.35 Canadian right now. It's been trickling down. They don't really do press releases. I haven't seen any recent CEO interviews. I like that this company is very promotional. We will hear from the CEO again at their next earnings. Their next earnings are not this week and not next week. I forget exactly when they are. I don't know if Yahoo Finance has been weirdly accurate for some reason for Q2 earnings. But that's Zoom Technologies, and they're saying August 28th for earnings, and that's kind of when we will hear from Zoom Technologies. Other than that, I have not heard from Zoom Technologies since their last earnings. So, yeah. You previously mentioned you can assess a microcap in 6 minutes or so with the help of AI. Do you have a filter you run companies through that narrows down your search, filtering out pre-cash flow? Negative. I don't know if I could do it in 6 minutes. I could do some companies in 6 minutes, right? Like if you look at Cassava Sciences, basically, you know, once you start developing your own investing style and your own investing rules, I could take a company like this and basically rule it out in 30 seconds, right? Because we're talking, you know, trailing 12-month revenue of zero, you know, $1.59 per share of losses. Boom. I've looked at that stock in seconds and I'm not interested. I don't really care what the argument is. I don't want to spend my time looking at that one. Beyond that, I go through stages, right? So if we're talking about have I researched a stock in 6 minutes, that's my filter where I'll at least look like, is it trending in the right direction? So that's why when you'll see me make a video sometimes and talk about a stock like D-Box Technologies, if I could find it and bring it up here, you know, looking at my video here and what I was looking at, you know, if I'm looking at the first 6 minutes of a company, is it trending in the right direction is what I'm looking at, right? Valuation trending in the right direction, earnings per share trending in the right direction, revenue trending in the right direction. I'm looking for trends. I'm looking for good trends, positive trends, inflection points. You know, was a stock previously EPS was going down and now we've got one little quarter of EPS going up. You know, in the first 6 minutes of research, that for me is probably a yes. I'll put it in a bucket or a pile to say I want to look a little deeper into this one, and then I'll move on and later on find the time to look a little deeper. So not necessarily saying I go through any stock in 6 minutes. It's just once you develop your strategy, you've got hardline no's, right? And you'll just go through stocks and that's a no, that's a no, that's a no, that's a no. Okay, these pass and let's move on and go on to the next one. Is it time to sell Kraken? I feel like they can still go up. That's up to you. I got no idea if it goes, because look, what am I going to do and sit here and say, like with Kraken? The theory was if you go look at Deep Sail Capital's original thesis on Kraken Robotics, Deep Sail Capital's thesis said that Kraken Robotics was a $6 share price if they execute on their battery facility that they're opening up, right? So I'm not saying $6. That was Deep Sail Capital saying $6. Now, that's very tough because when they're going to have that done is sometime in the future. And right now, you know, $86 million of revenue on a over $1 billion market cap. So again, for me, it comes down to, at this point, predicting the future, looking at your time target, kind of how long you want to be an investor in Kraken Robotics, because it really comes down to trust in the company and what your goals and what your own personal strategies are for investing in some of these stocks. Whether you're willing to be patient, wait years to get that final kick up to where, you know, somebody thinks a share price should be, or whether you've kind of made your money and you want to reduce your risk and trim or sell. That's definitely a personal question that I absolutely will never answer on this channel. Any word about Swan? No. Other than, you know, what we're talking about here is somebody is pumping up the graphene stocks, right? So Swan V is a company that I covered on my channel a while ago. I thought it was interesting. They're a Canadian company invested in graphene, early stage graphene, and you just see just massively up, right? For no reason, nothing that I'm aware of right here. And there's another company that's been massively up. So that's Black Swan Graphene. And then I know that a lot of people are looking at Hydrograph Clean Power, which is also, everybody's saying, oh, this is a graphene pure play stock. I mean, you look at that. This looks suspicious to me, right? This very much looks suspicious to me. From 25 cents to 85 cents, the company had to come out and say, oh, there's no material anything we know about that drove the share price up this high. Very thinly traded stock until recently. Now it's getting, 10 million shares of volume, and price has gone from 25 cents to 85 cents. So what I'm saying is that for some reason, graphene stocks are absolutely flying, or at least some of them. And I sure as hell don't trust it. I don't know what's going on, but that was not predictable. And yeah, did you just say that Pine Tree Capital is the son of Constipation Software? Constellation. I didn't even say Constellation, but yeah, maybe it was Constipation. Doesn't matter at this point. It's a winner. That's all that matters. It's Constellation Software has made a lot of people a lot of money, including myself. So congratulations. And I'm 55 minutes in. That's it for the questions. So I might be done. This is it. I'm going to give a little bit of a summary, I guess. This is your last chance to ask questions. Otherwise, Common Sense Investing live stream for Monday is over. Basically, yeah, Q2 earnings are coming up. I'm really interested to see if we're getting back to normal or not. So I'm not even necessarily playing any of these earnings coming up. Sometimes I like to buy stock before earnings because I think it's going to pop up on earnings. I tell you, this time I just don't know what's going to happen. I am really, really, really interested in this earnings season to see what happens, because there's just been so much chaos, right? So many different things happening. We're in a bull market, so if a company has good earnings, it's going to pop up, except you see some companies like Lovey had really good earnings this time just this morning, and share price did not pop up. So I can't wait to see earnings this year. I think it's going to answer a lot of questions to let us know if whether or not this bull market is going to continue or not for microcap stocks. Spell check ruined my question. Did I take a fractal aggregate turbostatic graphene as hydrographs play? Yeah, good luck with that. I know it's interesting. It always drives me nuts. If you look at hydrograph clean power, right, as far as on this channel, 226 million market cap company, 226 million. I mean, and if you look at their financials, what is that? $22,000 of revenue on $226 million market cap. And then you wonder sometimes why I'm the crazy old man sitting here screaming at people on a company like Mind Technologies that, $77 million market cap company, and they have 74 cents EPS per year last year. Like, profitable, growing company in a hot industry sector of ocean exploration, $46 million of trailing 12-month revenue. Not 22,000, 46 million, and only a $77 million market cap. It was recently, very recently, a $46 million market cap. That is crazy. That is crazy. And then I see a stock like Hydrograph Clean Power and their fraggedy aggregate turbostatic crap, right? And I'm like, this just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me. Did I take a look at MPTI? Mtron Industries. Yeah, somebody mentioned this before. Up 29% for the year. New York Stock Exchange, Americans, got some growing revenue. No, I did take a look at this. I don't remember what I thought about it, so I'll have to get back to you. There was another one that somebody wanted me to look at, WSTI, I also took a look at. So no, my apologies. I haven't looked at it yet. On my Discord, I keep a list. Like, I have a giant right now, 20 or 30 stock list of stocks that I want to research. So you might have to give me a couple months at this point, right? What do we got here? You like their patent. Patents are worth in and of themselves around $40,000. That's what a patent is worth. That's been proven over time. Like, a lot of companies with patents go absolutely bankrupt all the time. And people say, I like their patents. I like their patents. The patents don't mean anything unless you get a business model that works and product market fit. So you have somebody that wants to buy your patents, the products that your patents are making, and you have somebody that wants to buy your products that your patents are making, and you could make money from it. So like products are like me pouring the foundation of a house and then you looking at it and going, this is going to be the most beautiful house in the world, right? It just doesn't work like that for me. I'm not a fan of patents. I don't really care about patents. I've had so many investors come at me over the past 5-6 years on social media, look at their patents, and then the company absolutely fails. So be careful. It's been proven when companies go bankrupt that a patent is worth about $40,000 each. So PFE will be bouncing into earnings, so watch the bounce. We appreciate you and the research you do. Props to you and the fantastic channel. Thank you very much. The TAM on 1 nanometer graphene application is massive as well, but I might be selling myself hopium. I personally think you are. So that's just me. And I'm not being mean here, right? I'm not saying that. It's just I've seen so many people invest in these pre-revenue potential hopium stocks, and they go up. And some people make a lot of money on that, but if you time it wrong, like you have to be more of a trader than an investor, because it's always the people who fall in love with the stock, who fall in love with the patents, who end up diamond handsing this thing and just hodl to the bottom when it goes to zero, right? Like for me, I'm all about execution. I'm even talking about some of these stocks in this platform today. I got earnings coming up. You take a company like California Nanotechnologies, great company, love their product market fit. Arguably, they have a moat, and I'm still not a huge investor or excited or bullish about them right now because I'm still waiting for more information on Q2 earnings, right? So, or I think it'll be their Q1 earnings for California Nanotechnologies. The thing is, it's so hard to make predictions in the future without information. And these pre-revenue stocks with a couple patents and like, oh my gosh, the total addressable market is huge. That's just not enough information for me. So it's absolutely no insult to people that want to invest in these pre-revenue stocks. I tend to encourage people to make sure that you're trading it more than like falling in love with it, because a lot of people make money on these stocks, pre-revenue stocks, and it's not always the retail investors. It's the people doing the financings, convertible debentures, warrants, stock options. It's a lot of those people in the background that make money. It's a very dangerous space to be in for me because there's just not enough information. So that's my old man rant for the end of this live stream. I might as well end it there. We'll have another one next week, as always, Monday evening live stream, and I'll probably have 4, 5, 6 different companies to talk about that reported earnings this week. Good luck out there. I hope everybody is making money in the markets. It's a bull market, so everybody should be. And good luck. Good luck. Congratulations if you're making money. I hope you found some excellent stocks out there, and I look forward to talking about more of them when I see you again next week. So as always, you've been watching Common Sense Investing, and thank you for your time.